Welcome to Board Game Binge, the place where we bring you bite-sized, bingeable board game content from across the industry. I'm your host, James Staley, and in this episode, we're welcoming back Jeff Irving from Weathervane Games. Jeff is debuting the Vrahode Game System with his initial game, The Age of Prophecy, now on Kickstarter. Jeff, welcome to the binge. How you doing, sir?
I'm doing amazingly well, James. How about you?
I am doing great. It's good to see you again, buddy. It's been a while. I always run into you at the cons, so it's awesome to be able to get some time to chat with you. I know you were on the podcast. It goes back, I think, episode 230 with our guest host, Joe Slack. It's almost, I guess, over a year ago now. And it's cool to see this thing kind of evolve. We're going to get into the Vrahode Game System in a bit. But for those who don't know who you are, maybe you can just do a quick introduction as to what Weathervane Games is and kind of what you do in this industry.
Absolutely. So Weathervane Games is a small game design studio publisher in a little town called Whitefish, Montana. So we're about 30 miles from Canada, about 30 miles from Idaho. And started a few years back to house this whole massive world of Vrahode. So we're here on your show to talk a little bit about our Kickstarter that we're in the middle of right now for Age of Prophecy.
Nice. So this system, I know we've talked a lot about this, but this has literally been like 3 decades in the making, hasn't it?
Yeah, in 1990, I first started thinking about the world and wanted to do some novels around it. But I was a gamer, so kind of over the years, also I'm a good writer, but I'm not very prolific, so I can't crank the words out like a lot of writers can. And I continued to buy games and play games. The longer the world of Vrahode existed, the more I thought, man, this needs to be more of like an interactive medium. You know, this needs to be a game. And so it's kind of morphed over the years. And 4 years ago, we really started getting serious about this particular iteration of the world as kind of a co-op adventure / dungeon crawl system. And we've been working really, really hard on it since then. So,
is it fair to kind of compare it to D&D? Would you say? Is that a good analogy or no?
I think it's very fair, even though it's a board game, not an RPG. It's extremely RPG adjacent. And there's a lot of things that people can compare it to D&D with. And that's like, we do have an initiative system. And in D&D, you kind of roll initiative to see who goes first. We have an initiative system. We have stats. They're not the 6 that D&D uses. But yes, I feel like it's a really streamlined, more visual version of D&D, sort of.
Well, definitely there's the creatures, right? And there's I guess the different classes of characters. So when you were writing this, so where did the name Vrahode come from? I know I always get my it's like I got marbles in my mouth when I try to say this, but
you pronounce it perfectly. Vrahode is exactly it. I'll be honest with you. One of the writers I've always respected a lot and who has put their stamp on fantasy, the fantasy genre, is Tolkien, right? Mm-hmm. Everybody knows Tolkien. Sure. And he was a linguist before he was a writer. And I kind of approached Vrahode with that same kind of love of language. And so if you're going to try to create a fresh fantasy world for people to explore, you have to have your own kind of language, really, because you want the creatures to have believable names, and you want the heroes and the races, and basically everything in a fresh fantasy world has to have that its own kind of cadence, its own kind of rhythm to the way the words work. So I would say that what I've done is not that I'm not comparing myself to Tolkien, but it's out of that same love of language that he had. Yeah. And so in that sense, yes, it's very much a kind of an homage to Tolkien's love of language.
And then it is ever spanning, I guess is the way to kind of describe it. And I know, like when I was able to see this in person at oh gosh, this is a year and a half ago now at Origins, and I saw your actual system, right, where you have like the the character management system and kind of that whole almost dashboard for holding the cards and so
Yeah,
forth. Where did that
yeah.
idea
There's
for that come from?
well, one of the things, I think all designers look for something, right? What is going to be my mark? What is going to differentiate my product from the thousands and thousands of others that are out there? And of course, fantasy is an extremely busy genre, right? Stuff is being released almost daily in the board game industry in that fantasy space. And I love playing D&D always, right? Always. But to me, it was about how do we take that kind of feeling of a character sheet, right?
Mm-hmm.
With all these data points and interpret that into a board game. And so I think our hero dashboards are almost more of interactive character sheets than they are dashboards because we handle way more data points than any other game in this area. So it kind of does all the heavy lifting for you. I mean, to be able to have all these data points, and then you've got a backpack slot where you can store things in a backpack, like in D&D, and you've also got an equipped item slot. So basically, you've got all these data points, and it allows you to kind of care for your hero more, because the more you know about your hero, the more connected you are to them, invested, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of the approach we decided to do, is really sit and iterate and make sure that the dashboard is as perfect as we can make it. And what we have in the production version of Age of Prophecy is the 14th iteration of the dashboard.
Yeah, because I even saw like wood ones you had before, which are like ultra deluxe and things like that. And
we're offering those in the Pledge Manager. So the wood ones haven't gone away. They're just they're not at a price point that most people could practically afford.
Sure.
So we're super excited to offer them, but we understand that there's only a few people that are going to want to spring for that.
Can you build these characters up over time? Like, can you, from campaign to campaign, continue on from where you kind of left off in your character development?
Oh yeah, absolutely. So all you do is, I mean, this, it's populated with cubes and cards, obviously on here. When you're done with a session, if you've played an encounter and you have to put the game up, we have a clear cover that just clicks over the top of it.
Oh,
so
cool.
You lay your cards down, or you put them in these pockets, and then you just click the clear cover, and you've saved your work. And so you put it away. Next time you play, click the cover off, and your progress has been saved. So absolutely.
That's amazing.
Absolutely.
And is this your full-time job, or like what are you doing outside of Vrahode when you're not working on the game system?
Right. So yeah, to answer the question, yes, this is all I do.
Wow.
I was a graphic designer my entire adult life. When I was younger, I owned computer stores, but I was on sabbatical for a short while because I'd worked so hard my whole life. And so then I decided that this was going to be, I didn't want to work for somebody else anymore.
Yeah.
And yeah, this is my full-time job. And I realize how rare that is, and how blessed I am to be able to do what I love. And I am extremely passionate about it. So don't think for a minute I'm not grateful that I have this opportunity to be a full-time game designer, because that's not very common.
It's the dream, right, for a lot of people.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, most people can't do that, right? They have to. It's kind of like their side hustle and their evening and weekends and anywhere they can squeeze in time. Jobby, I guess we call it, right? Where it's a second full-time job, but it's definitely where the passion and the love is, right?
Yeah.
In the system. So when you launched this this system, the decision was made to go with Age of Prophecy. So why Age of Prophecy first? Because this is just one chapter, right, of many to come. Is that fair?
Yeah. Age of Prophecy is like us introducing the world to you, teaching 85 to 90% of the mechanics in the larger system. So it does have kind of a tutorial feel, and we're trying to show you how our system is different. The reason we chose Age of Prophecy first is because as a company, as Weathervane Games, and as a designer, Jeff Irving, I felt like I had something to prove to the board game industry before we released a lot of big, expensive products, right? Money's tight these days. And so Age of Prophecy it's a lot for $79. It really is a lot of game.
Oh yeah.
It's top quality components. It's ink washed minis. So it's really it's exciting to be able to offer this good of a product for $79. So yeah, we feel like we have something to prove. If you love it, then maybe later you'll trust us enough to open your wallets a little more.
Sure. And is the plan to, as you kind of build out this universe, to have them like people can do like add-ons through the website? Will it be subsequent Kickstarter campaigns, or kind of what's been your thought process on how you kind of map that out?
We've got Age of Prophecy, the core box, and the 3 expansions. I think each of those will probably be a separate launch. Um, there's 12 total products in the system. There's an expansion that comes out with expansion 1, an expansion 2, and expansion 3. So there are expansions to the expansions. I think the total product count is 12.
Wow. Like
Now,
12
you
separate
mentioned,
games.
yeah, you mentioned fan created content, and that is why we're marketing Vrahode as a game system, because much like HeroQuest, they invite you in. They say, "Hey, make your own quests, right? Create your own heroes." We're doing that.
Wow.
We have forums on the website that allow you to upload quests or campaigns, or custom heroes you've built. So in that sense, we're trying to build community.
That's cool. And how will you invite people into that? Like, how will people be able to just on their own, or will there be some tools you provide to allow them to create their own quests and things like this?
Right. Basically, what we'll do is we'll have the forums are there. The forums are already there
Yeah.
within the structure of the weathervanegames.com website. So they're there, and they can house files. We'll have a basic kind of like how-to instructions on the structure that we use to build quests. And quest chains or campaigns are essentially just a series of quests, right? So you'll have, each quest has a title, each quest has an objective, each quest has a list of assets that it brings to bear, and then all of the descriptions of how the adventure unfolds within those assets. And then you're going to have a conclusion and a reward. So that's basically kind of like a quest template. So we'll provide them with the quest template. We'll say, these are all the elements that the things that you're going to submit are going to need to have.
Yeah.
And then we'll have 2 channels. We'll have a sanctioned channel where we say, hey, we can actually add this to our canon, right? This is okay. You can go over into Region 35, build this campaign in Region 35, and it doesn't conflict with our storytelling. So we'll actually put a stamp on it, and it'll be labeled in our actual canon channel, and we'll also have a bootleg channel. So if you don't want to match what we're doing and you want to be in the bootleg channel, fine. You can go crazy with your creativity and make this crazy stuff and just have fun and still share it with people. It just won't be in the sanction channel.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
And then if it gets sanctioned, so how does it get sanctioned? Like who will decide if something is sanctioned or not? Obviously,
Right. You submit it to us.
Yeah.
Right. And we look at it and we make the decision. Does this conflict with the overarching story or the canon of the world? Right.
Yeah.
This epic lore. And we just look at it and we look through it and say, yeah, this looks okay. This doesn't mess anything up. It doesn't mess up any timelines. The creatures that you're using are what we intended for these types of areas. And we just throw it in and say, we put a graphic little like stamp of approval on it.
Yep.
And it goes over here. And then the bootleg channel will be fun and wild, and it'll be crazy ideas and stuff that people just want to, have fun with.
Will there be ability to create creatures and species as well? Like, will people have those abilities?
The only way you're going to ever be able to do that in our system is if we provide access to new creature graphics, and people want to take the graphic, create the stats for the creature and the story of the creature around it and submit it, because we have to be careful, because if you don't have good controls over what you're doing, things can get messy in a hurry, and we're being
Yeah.
very protective of our lore, right? It's going to be a lot easier for you to submit hero
Mm,
builds, and to create quests and campaigns. Creating enemies is a whole different thing, and it requires that we curate. We make sure we have control every step of the way. So I would say that's going to be the toughest.
got it. And then when I was at Origins, again, this is a year and a half ago now, there was like, you had like these multi-level layered kind of boards,
Right.
like that were like map. Is that still something that's coming, or is that like further
Yeah,
down the road? Or
Harbinger, that's the Harbinger system. And the Harbinger actually was what happened first.
hmm,
I designed the Harbinger system because I wanted to contribute something new to the board game industry that advanced the hobby. And I always felt like, much like VR technology is to me, I feel like it's a technology that just hasn't reached its promise yet.
sure,
And I feel the same way about 3D terrain systems in the board game space. I think they're either not very functional,
yeah,
they look like crap, or they're exceedingly expensive, right? They're
yeah,
one or the other. And so I set out to create something that you could literally build 5 level deep dungeons with, and then set a full dinner plate and a glass of wine on without it falling over. And we've done that.
wow,
So the Harbinger system is actually our next release after Age of Prophecy, because it's an agnostic system. It's not just for Vrahode. This is our gift to the board game industry. And so we'll have 4 sets of fantasy Harbinger, and we'll have 4 sets of sci-fi Harbinger,
oh wow,
and those will be coming out. That's probably our next project. I've got all of the assets done for it, except we're in the middle of developing the sci-fi art for the
mm.
sets. Other than that, there's a lot of news coming out with that, as far as guest writers and what systems want to associate with that. But I'll stop there.
So Vrahode will have like a sci-fi stories as well, or no? Or this is just kind of more of
No.
a spin-off type?
Yeah, no, the sci-fi facet of Harbinger is to satisfy um, the sci-fi, the people that want to do sci-fi,
Mm.
basically dungeon crawling, right? So Star Wars type stuff,
Yeah,
because it's an agnostic system, it'll work with any other system.
got it.
It's a 1-inch grid. So no, sci-fi is separate. The 4 fantasy sets, when we do release them to go with Vrahode, they'll have a campaign, they'll have exclusive minis and cards that link up with Vrahode, so that we incentivize our Vrahode people to try the Harbinger.
Mm,
But when we do the Harbinger sets for other game systems, there will be no Vrahode campaign or minis or cards, because we don't want to have people outside of our system to have to pay for that stuff,
sure.
right? Because the whole
Yeah.
point of the Harbinger system is to do something that's affordable, that's beautiful, but doesn't cost an arm and a leg. Where, like, if you go to Dwarven Forge, I mean, Dwarven Forge is amazing, right? But each piece is 20, $30 for this beautiful little diorama.
Yeah.
What we're doing is designed to be affordable. It doesn't have any paper in any of the product. It's all plastic and vinyl, and it's designed to do one thing: get your games off the tabletop.
Yeah. Oh, that's cool. Yeah, it's I mean, Wave Trade here is a gorgeous system. I think that's clear, and you can see the amount of love that you've pumped into this over the past number of years. So right now it plays 1 to 4 players. This version does, anyways,
Right.
and it's 60 to 120 minutes, which surprised me that you can get through a game in an hour to 2 hours. What was the thinking behind that?
Yeah, because I think the number one reason for that was, I think somewhere along the way, campaign games
Yeah.
got this stigma that's like, people are just make up their mind, I'm not doing any more campaign games. I just don't have time in my life.
Mm,
So what we said is, how do we have this story we have to tell, right? We have this lore. How do we do that in a way that allows people to get through the story in manageable chunks of time that fits in with their work schedule, that fits in with their particular gaming group or their family time. And so what we did is we decided to break our campaign down into these manageable chunks. So instead of playing on one map, like a lot of dungeon crawl type games do, we give you 24 maps to play through, and each map you play is an hour, somewhere between an hour and 2 hours of time commitment. So let's say you're with your game group and it's a serious gaming session on the weekend, you've got 6 hours to play, you're going to be able to get through 3 or 4 maps. But if you're the type of person that, you may have a family game night, you play for an hour before you put the kids to bed, then you can get through one map.
Yeah, it makes it more accessible, doesn't it?
Way more. This thing is super quick to table. This isn't one of those games where it takes you a half an hour to set up all the tokens and stuff. You can get this thing to the table in 5 minutes, enjoy a good hour to 2 hour session, click the covers over your dashboards, throw them in the box, and then next time you go on from there.
So I want to talk about your campaign page really quickly here.
Yeah.
First of all, congratulations on already funding. So it's not a question of this is moving forward. This is moving forward. You've already funded, and you still have, I think, 12 days to go. So It's going to be exciting to see where you guys kind of end up. The one thing that caught my eye that I'm just showing on screen here is, yes, you get the ink wash minis that come with the game. I think there's 6 ink wash minis that come with the base game. But then you've got this upgrade pack, which is just like gobs and gobs of minis. So it's like 48 minis. Am I reading that correctly?
Yes. So if you don't want standees, and I here's the ones that come in the box. This is the ink wash minis that we give you.
Yeah.
We decided to go ahead and just do ink wash standard. Mm-hmm. A lot of people use it as a way to make more money. They'll upcharge you for ink washing.
Yep.
We wanted to set ourselves apart. So you're going to get ink wash minis standard in the box. If you don't want the standees, the 48 standees, you can not punch them or use them, and you can purchase the mini upgrade pack, 48 ink washed. These are also ink washed like that.
Holy smokes.
For $55. Wow. So again, even if you do the base game and all the minis, you're at like $125. So not too bad for, let's see, 48 plus 6, so 54. You'd have 54 total ink wash minis. So yeah.
Yeah, one might ask how you can even make money.
And you know what? To be honest with you, we're not really that concerned about making money.
Yeah.
This is our way to prove to you we know how to make a good game.
Yeah.
And if we break even on this and we gain fans and we gain trust and we build our brand, then that's really the purpose of this first launch.
Get people in. Yeah, it's interesting. A lot of people look at minis like, oh, well, how much does it really cost to, pump a like several thousand little pieces of plastic? But it's the molds that kill you, right? Like the molds are.
If you don't, like Harbinger, for example, the Harbinger system. Just to get the Harbinger system, the molds for the Harbinger system is $70,000.
Yeah, it's insane. Yeah, the molds will kill you. So kudos to you guys on this. I mean, I don't know why you wouldn't want to get the minis. Do they fit in the box, or is it like a separate kind of box just for the minis?
Yeah, we're not one of those launches where you end up with 6 or 8 boxes on your shelf.
Yeah,
not that. But because the core game comes with 6 minis and the rest standees, well, obviously we know standees come on a flat sheet and you punch them out, right? Because the miniature upgrade set is so big, because it's all minis, it is going to be a separate box. It is a separate box, but we're only asking you to do 2 boxes on your game shell, on your Kallax.
Yeah.
Where a lot of them, these games it's all bloat, right? I promise it's not a lot of bloat. It's just 2 boxes.
Yeah, and the details in these minis is like amazing. This is like some who'd you have do the art for this? Like these minis are like really
right. Well, Limelight Miniatures in London did all of our miniature work. I love Connor there, Connor Malik, fantastic gentleman, fantastic company in London. Mm-hmm. We've done everything through them. Every single thing. They even helped us finally, after going through a lot of companies, they have an engineer that works with them that finally helped us get the Harbinger system to where it was stable. Like super, not wiggly, just like I mean, seriously, set a dinner plate on it. Boom,
Yeah.
no problem. And that was those guys. So kudos to Limelight
Oh
Miniatures in
yeah.
London.
They did an amazing job.
Yeah,
So,
they're great.
so when I look at kind of this whole system, and have you thought about kind of what's kind of next on deck? So how map it out for me for the people listening. They get the base game, then what's kind of next from there?
If you're calling Age of Prophecy the base game,
Yep.
okay, so yeah, so Age of Prophecy, initial launch, this is going to whet your appetite, get you 85 to 90% of the mechanics of the system, and it's one mode of play, right? This is a story-driven game that has a little bit of a curated feel. In other words, if you're playing solo, which you can play solo in this game with one hero,
Cool.
if you're playing the Blade, which is our equivalent of a warrior, and you finish a map, and there's a gear reward, you're going to get a warrior reward. We're not going to give you something you can't use.
Yeah.
Right? But it's one mode of play. Once you try the system, if you love it, when we take you into the core box, we're going to up the player count to 1 to 6, and there's 6 modes of play. So you can play campaign mode, kind of like this is. You can play different time commitments of quest levels. We have expeditions, we have missions, we have skirmishes, we have subplots that are over here on story. We have procedural play. We have commissions that you do by serving the villages. So you can kind of craft your play based on your play group, based on your time available. And I personally love procedural play. I want to be able to be at a location and to head across country and get to a far-flung village and have a good time getting there with no DM and just go.
Yeah.
And to me, that's a holy grail of a game. Can you deliver it without a GM and not have it feel flat, right?
Yeah,
Have
that's
it
true.
still be immersive and story driven. And we think we've done that.
That's amazing. And then the next campaign you launch, the next Kickstarter will be when? Is it next year? Is it 6 months from now? Like how quickly are you going to have these come out in succession?
Harbinger will be next. The 8 Harbinger sets will be next. Okay. They'll be 2025.
2025.
I don't think we'll be able to get the core box launched in 2025, just because you know how everything in the game industry moves very slowly.
Yeah.
So I would say the core box will probably be an early 2026 launch. And then it'll probably go quicker because the core box is the big lift, right? It's the one with 122 minis. It's the one with the great big thick books. Once we get the core box launched, then the 3 expansions that follow will be in a quicker cadence. They'll be like every 8 months.
Got it.
Boom. And then at those times, the expansions to those will also be coming out. Like you go core box, then expansion 1, and then there's an expansion called the Knolls. It's an optional expansion that adds a whole new biome to the world of Vrahode that's playable. And then the expansion for expansion 2 is called Into the Maelstrom, and that adds ship-to-ship combat, and it adds a whole new area of land to the world that's beyond this whirlpool.
Yeah.
And then the last one, there's an expansion onto expansion 3, and it is my personal homage to Dungeons of Legend. I love big multi-floored dungeons, and because we have the Harbinger system, we have the tool set to build it.
Yeah.
So I thought I want to do my own homage to those big Dungeons of Legend. And so it'll just be this massive, diabolical dungeon that very few people could ever survive.
That's awesome.
So,
oh man,
it
is so robust. This world that you've created, I just love it. This your logo. I've been meaning to ask you about this. You've got these kind of like gems or something in the logo. I've always wondered what the significance of those are. Is there any significance at all, or is it just a design element?
Vrahode is a primitive world. Okay, Vrahode is not. It's not a world. It's not European in nature. It's not grimdark. It's not Gothic. It's more of a Greenwood tale. The races that we're playing as heroes have only been in existence on this world for about 100 years. We've forgotten metallurgy. We don't even have metallurgy, right?
Oh wow.
The weapons that are around are old. So we're rediscovering metallurgy. We have no coinage. We have no minted coinage. So the way you buy and sell items in our world is through barter. And there's a sell value and a buy value. And so you don't have a tray full of coins, that you're having to manage. All of your items inherently have a value and they have a function. And because at its heart, the games in this system are survival games. And so you have to decide for yourself, is the value of having that torch or that poison, is it worth more to me functionally, or is the value of it worth more to barter it away for something I want more?
That's cool.
And it's that way for every single item in our world. Every item has a value and a function, and you have to decide what helps your math more, right?
Yeah.
So
that is super cool. Oh, Jeff, I gotta tell you, I am super pumped for this game. I can't wait to see where you guys land. I know the love and passion you put into this. You and I have known each other now for a few years, and run into you at the cons, and I just keep seeing this. I'm just to finally now see it finally come out. Right? It's I know it's got to really be an immense amount of pride for you. Just when you finally see this baby kind of see the world, right?
Yeah.
Oh, that's amazing. Well, for those who want to check this out, Vrahode System, type in VRA if you're doing a search in Kickstarter. I'm going to put a link in the show notes. So you just click on the link. You can easily find it and check it out. Man, there's just so much to this that I think that is worth digging into. And if it's something that people find interesting, then hopefully they back your game. And if not, at the very least, maybe not jump in on this one, jump in on the next one. I want to wish you all the best, my friend, on this campaign, and we'll talk soon.
Thank you so much, James. I appreciate you.
No worries. Take care. Cheers. This has been an episode of the Board Game Binge podcast, hosted by James Staley, produced by James Staley and Mike Bruner, with original music by Nick Smith. If you would like to watch these interviews live, simply subscribe to our YouTube channel, Board Game Binge, and you'll get access to live interviews, giveaways, and interesting board game content from across the industry. I can't wait for you to join us. See you next time.